Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Preliminary information at this time is that the alleged shooter has taken his own life here at the scene. After a preliminary search of the grounds, we have located 8 people at the scene with injuries consistent to gunshot wounds. Those 8 were pronounced deceased here at the scene. We have been made aware of multiple other people with injuries who have been transported to local hospitals or who have transported themselves to local hospitals.
Last night, 8 killed, 1 in serious conditions. Not everything is known about a few of the others, but horrific scene at a FedEx facility in Indy. Awful. You know what's crazy, though? Not too much. I mean, you know, it was, you'd hear about it overnight. And normally something like this, you'd wake up and like, oh. But I was telling producer Anthony, there's just so much going on. In and itself, if nothing else was happening and it was just a normal day, and there wasn't a George Floyd case and there wasn't a Dante Wright situation that is, as you can see, with both of those right now happening simultaneously in the same place, it's like, ooh. Nothing big. I mean, it's not 24/7 wall to wall like it would be. It's not 24/7 wall to wall. It's there. And part of the reason is because there also doesn't seem to be a narrative that fits with what a lot of people look for, which is how can we spin it in a way that is going to make it seem like something that we can get some extra legs for our audience.
At this point, law enforcement sources told ABC News there is no indication the latest mass shooting in the United States is connected to terrorism. Instead, investigators are trying to determine now whether this was an act of workplace violence at the FedEx warehouse on the southwest side of Indianapolis. FedEx said it is deeply shocked and saddened at the loss of its team members.
Yeah, it's quiet. FedEx work? It's a workplace thing? Nah, there's nothing here. He had a rifle, right? Like, you know, some witnesses describe what they saw last night, sitting down, getting ready to eat a little late lunch because it's obviously the time change. You know, some people go to work in the afternoon, work late at night, and some people go to work late at night, work early into the morning. Describe what they saw.
I opened my chips, got my sandwich, about to take a bite, and we heard 2 loud metal clangs at first because they didn't sound like gunshots at first. Again, there was a loud clang after the first 2, and then my buddy Levi stood up as he was like kind of squatting and then looked over and out into the parking lot. Didn't see anything yet. Then we heard 3 more shots, and then my buddy Levi saw someone running out of the building, and then more shots went off. Somebody went behind their car to the trunk and got another gun, and then I saw 1 body on the floor.
That's what he saw. Not a lot. You know, flipping around on the news this morning just to see what the coverage was like. Wasn't the kind of coverage you would normally see. And part of the reason is because there's so much going on. Right? You go from there to what took place in Chicago. They finally released the footage of a 13-year-old boy who was killed by police. His name is Adam Toledo, and he was shot. And you think, oh, my God. When you watch the body cam footage, and it's 9 minutes, it's like that. Blink of an eye. And if they slow it down to the 1/1000th, 1/10th, you could see him with his arms up, but the human eye is not going to pick that up.
And again, we warn the video is difficult to watch.
You're about to witness a tragedy unfold in the blink of an eye.
Chicago Emergency, Travis.
Hi, I just heard gunshots.
But how many shots did you hear?
A lot, of more than 5.
An officer arrives at the scene, body camera rolling. He races through an alley in hot pursuit. Suddenly, a confrontation. The officer yelling to see the suspect's hands. The suspect stopping and turning quickly. The officer fires a shot.
Show me your ass. Stop it. Stop it.
So, let's go back. Officer fires a shot. Why? It's night. Gunshots. He shows up on the scene in an alley. It's a 13-year-old boy doing an alley with another person who has a gun, who's much older. The officer realizes immediately what took place. And Anthony and I were talking about this morning, and Anthony described it perfectly. He's distraught, right? He's distraught. He's walking in circles. He's absolutely distraught that this has happened. 13-year-old child. But also the questions are, why are you in an alley late at night with an adult? Why is all this going on? CPR failed. Did he have a gun, though?
The officer begins CPR, but it's too late.
Stay with me. Hey, stay with me.
Hey, stay awake. Stay awake,
Put
man.
the chest press up. I'm going to start CPR. I'm not feeling a heartbeat.
Go ahead. I'm trying to.
When the confusion is over, we learn the suspect is only 13 years old. His name is Adam Toledo. The officer has said the boy had a gun in his hand. You can see a handgun a few feet away from the young man along this fence. But at the critical moment in some of the videos when the shot was fired, it's hard to see any gun in the boy's hands.
Here's my thing. If you break it down to, you ever watch like sports now and they got the extra, triple, quadruple slow-mo where it's going 1/1000th of a quadrillionth of a second and you could see that person stop, or when they compress the ball in golf, you could see the golf ball actually compress and goes down to where it looks like it's almost the size, it just goes. The human eye's not picking that up. There's looks like a gun. Right there. The human eye's not. You've told me there is shots being fired where? In an alley. Okay. I show up. What do I expect? I expect that because you've called in. We didn't call you. You called in. You said, hey, there's shots being fired in an alley. I show up. It's tragic, absolutely. Toledo family attorney Adina Weiss-Ortiz.
But I don't think it matters whether Adam is a choir boy, whether he is involved in some other untoward activity. The fact of the matter is that he was walking in the street and he was shot unarmed. That could have been me in that street. That could have been my son in that street. That could have been any of one of us in that alley that evening.
Well, it does matter, right? Like, I mean, it does matter. It could be any one of us in some ways, right? Yeah, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But it matters if he's a choir boy, you know where he's not? He's not in an alley late at night with somebody else who has a gun, and the person that of interest that they're looking for. He's not in an alley late at night. Choir boys don't do that. I'm not saying he was a bad kid. I'm just saying, why was he there? These are questions that need to be answered. The entire situation is awful. It is. Nobody wants to see anybody gunned down. We ask the police to be perfect. They need to be perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we ask them to be perfect. I understand we ask them to be perfect. We also ask everybody else to be perfect as well. We ask them never to make mistakes, and if you could be perfect and when you call in, it's not. It's human nature. Over the next several weeks, this will break down more. But the reason this isn't the story that people are talking about is because the fact that we have other things happening. We have got a situation where already there's anger because of George Floyd and what's happening. And yesterday, this is how close this was. I talked to Alex Stone from ABC News yesterday. He's there. They sent him out there. And Alex is telling me, he goes, all right, Chad, so check this out. He goes, this courthouse here on this street is barricaded up and, there's people in front. Police, they want to make sure nothing happens. He goes, less than a block away, Officer Potter, who was a training officer who shot and killed Dante Wright, her arraignment case was going on. I mean, that's how close this is. We're already there. We're like feeling it. So much going on. We're going to talk about more about this, and also police and the relationship that police are trying to walk this crazy fine line of the things that we ask them to be, because we ask them to be a lot of things, but also the fact that, they're trying to figure out how do we reimagine ourselves to some people who are terrified of us. How do we reimagine ourselves to a part of the public that thinks we're evil and bad? How do we do that? It's very interesting. I don't know why anybody would be a cop today. I don't. I have no idea. I look back and I think to myself, why would anybody want to be a cop today? In today's climate, in today's world where you're going to be judged on whatever. First of all, you're going to be judged strictly on the uniform and the job you have. From there, if you're white, you're probably, for a lot of people, some sort of Nazi. And if you're black and you're an officer, you're probably some sort of sellout in the black community. For a lot of people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet us. A lot to talk about as well. Vaccines. Pfizer wants you to know that you got another one coming. What? Oh, yeah. You knew it was going to be that way, right? You knew it was going to be that way. Question is, can they do something different in the future to make things a little bit more convenient? We're going to touch on that. So much stuff to get to today. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Plus, we're going to ask you about bullying because a new report came out, new study about bullies. I found it kind of laughable, and I posted something last night, and within moments, people took my post and made it exactly what you thought they would. At Chad Benson Show is that Twitter. Check it out if you can, and it's on the Instagram as well. Masterclass is great. You get sucked into Masterclass. So if you don't know what Masterclass is, imagine this. You learn from the world's best. And I'm talking about the absolute best in the world. The best of the best. From everybody. I mean, you name it. I mean, Natalie Portman, Alicia Keys, right? You want to learn science. They've got Neil deGrasse Tyson. You want to learn whatever it is that you're looking for. They've got it. And these are the best. These are the people who are doing it. They're not people that are like, oh, I'm a professor, I've never done it. No, this is the best. And the beauty of what they do is you go and you essentially study along with them. They're teaching you things, right? They're teaching you the art of acting, art of cooking, Wolfgang Puck, the art of whatever it is, maybe photography, writing, negotiation. They have the best in the world, the best that actually do it. It's like 20 classes. You get workbooks, stuff that you can practice along with, recipes. And they're about 10 minutes each class. And it is awesome. And the film quality is amazing. It is incredible. And you learn so much. Maybe you're thinking, I'd like to take a hobby to the next level. This is the thing that you sign up for. It's pennies a day. Right? I think it's 41 cents a day for a year. How easy is that? Expand your mind, learn a lot, and you'll be surprised at some of the stuff. I got sucked in on chess with Gary Kasparov and Phil Ivey with poker. It's crazy. It's just become so interesting. Save an extra 15%. Masterclass.com/Benson. Save today. Masterclass.com/Benson. Masterclass.com/Benson. Chad Benson Show.
To be free. I am not a terrorist. I am not Antifa. I am not a sex slave that wears masks.
Don't be a cutie pie.
Probably sit around and cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
You're ruining my life, man!
Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
The list goes on, and the message is clear. Help is here. Hope is here. And we've already seen what happens when you help those who are hurting the most, when you build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. We have created more new jobs in these first 2 months than any administration in history.
There you go. Sounds a lot like with Trump. It's funny, so much of what they're doing and is very, at times, Trumpian. So much of what they're looking to do, right? Bring troops home. The way that they want to do infrastructure. Trump wanted to do infrastructure big time. There's a lot of stuff that they're going to finish it like Trump was a part of. And it's kind of, you sit there and you laugh. And even CNN pointed out something. It's a Biden presidency with a lot of Trumps to do the other day. And I was laughing. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of that. It's the biggest gains in the history of mankind. It's like, okay, that sounds very Trump. But we're doing okay in spite of what's going on, right? We're still trying to climb out of all of this. In spite of the coronavirus that essentially stopped down our economy in full for 18 plus months, with only a few states truly operating almost at full capacity, we've done all right. The stock market has done pretty well, and people are like, well, I don't participate in stocks. I mean, you have 401k? Yeah. Okay, well, then you do, right? They just don't put money in a bank account and magically go, we're going to give you 8% this year. Doesn't work that way. And so you do participate, and stocks are up. A lot of that's tech, right? Because when we're home, we can work from home. Well, what do? We have tech, right? A lot of other people, there's times when we're sitting around, we got nothing to do. What do? We have tech. So that's huge.
The U.S. economy is firing on all cylinders, and investors love that. Economists say increased vaccination rates are helping businesses reopen, and the stimulus program is helping a lot. So that is exactly as intended.
Yeah. In saying that, though, let's take a look over at China and how their GDP is doing.
China's economic growth soared more than 18% over this time last year as the nation continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Last year, Beijing's gross domestic product, a snapshot of all goods and services produced, suffered its deepest contraction in decades. But business activity returned mostly to normal after the Communist Party declared victory over the virus and began to allow factories and stores to reopen. By comparison, the last GDP reading for the U.S. was 4.3%.
Yeah. So soak that up. Soak that up. And they declared victory, something we will never do because we don't declare victories. We just continue to push it along. 323-538-2423. Let's talk about the vaccines, the coronavirus. Little showdown yesterday with Fauci and members of Congress. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
No, give us some objective standards versus when certain things get reached, we might be able to get back to having our liberty. When? What are the numbers?
Right now, we're at an unacceptably high level. On a daily basis, it's unacceptably high, regardless of who you are. What you're going to see as more and more people get vaccinated, you're going to see the level of infection come down, and gradually there will be more flexibility for doing the things that you're talking about.
Where does it get to? When it comes down, what number do we get our liberties back? Tell me the number.
That right there, Jim Jordan. These hearings, yesterday they had a hearing. It's coronavirus, and both of it's a show. Jim Jordan wore a mask as kind of as a show and a joke towards, Fauci. And Fauci wore a mask. Why? I think this is a fair question here. Again, it's not my cup of tea. I think he's completely a downer in a lot of different ways, and I completely understand being. Look, we got to take care of everybody. We got to do the best that we possibly can. I have no problem with that. But at some point, I feel like it's a show now, right? You got both vaccination. There's nobody near you. You can take your mask off during a hearing, right? Like everybody in the room's vaccinated. You can take your mask off. But Jim Jordan's right. Like, what's the number? Since the beginning of this thing, I think that a lot of people, the question everybody wants to ask is, when are you take this damn mask off, right? Like everybody. But the other side of it is, there never seems to be a clear path of when we're exiting. Like, where's the off ramp? I'm curious. Like, when is the off ramp going to show up? Because it never seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. And something that isn't going to be going anywhere. Pfizer announced yesterday you're going to probably need a third shot. So there you go. So there's 3 shots now. The talk is that they're going to figure out probably a way to mix it with, as these things improve, with maybe a flu shot. So you can go get the flu shot and the coronavirus shot all in one. Lots of shots. Shots. And also, Johnson & Johnson asked Moderna and Pfizer for help in taking a look at the data to find out about these blood clots. And both Moderna and Pfizer, this is where business comes in, said, nah, we're not going to do it. And part of the reason is because they look and say, why would we help Johnson & Johnson? Because everybody wants the Johnson & Johnson. Why? Because it's 1 shot. You're talking about a 3rd shot. Johnson & Johnson's like, how about 1? I'm like, 1 sounds pretty good. So that's where we are. But I think it's a fair question. Like, what's that number look like where we could say, it's not just Texas and a few other states, that things are back to what we would consider a normal way of life?
What determines when?
I'm sorry.
What measure? Are we just going to continue this forever, or when do we get to the point? What measure? What standard? What objective outcome do we have to reach before Americans get their liberty and freedoms back?
You're indicating liberty and freedom. I look at it as a public health measure to prevent people from dying and going to the hospital.
You don't think Americans' liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci? They've been assaulted. Their liberties have.
I don't look at this as a liberty thing.
Well, that's obvious. The Constitution is suspended during a virus, during a pandemic? It's certainly not.
This will end for sure when we get the level of infection very low.
Fauci could answer the question. When does it end? Because there's a number. One of the number is, I heard they would like to see deaths in America under 100 a day when it comes to this. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get that with the flu, for God's sakes. Could you imagine that we'd be going on like this forever? What you're finding now is, even now, people are on the left. I got friends of mine who are on the left. Like, say, I don't want to wear the mask anymore. Okay, I got my shots. I'm moving on. That's why if I was Biden, I would have come out the minute we knew we had everything available to people. We're swimming in a lot of places in vaccines. We told you this was going to happen. We said it was going to happen. It's happening. We're at a position right now where we got enough vaccine. If you don't want to get a vaccine, you have made a choice. I don't want to get it. I got no problem with that. I got zero problem with that. Life should be about choices. I don't want to step on anybody's choice in life and the freedoms. You do, that's fine. But at some point in time, everybody else is stepping on a lot of other people's, like mine, where I feel like I'm being held somewhat hostage to the never-ending, I'm not quite sure when we get to an acceptable level. What's that level? I don't know. I can't tell you. To the point where it's like, well, these 3 over here don't want to get the vaccine, so based on that, you 100 have to continue to wear the mask. And by the way, one of them can't get it for religious reasons or reasons like they could potentially die from the vaccine, go into anaphylactic shock, things of that nature. So there's just no way they could get it anyways. So we're going to have to live like this forever. And then, of course, it's all about the grandstanding, which drives me crazy, but it's funny.
You're the highest paid official in the United States government. You've given us your advice on baseball, on dating apps, on cruise ships. You told us 0 masks, 1 mask, 2 masks, now back to 1 mask. I'm just asking you, when is it going to end? You can say I'm ranting. I'm actually asking the question that the citizens I get the privilege of representing, and my name actually goes on a ballot. I don't think your name's ever been on a ballot. My name goes on a ballot. The citizens I represent want to know the answer to when they can get their liberties back. You can call that ranting. I actually call it standing up for the Constitution, and we'd like an answer, or your best guess, since you've got an answer for everything else.
So, and that was grandstanding, because that's what you do. These hearings are not about anything other than that rant's going to be great. I can send that email out to everybody. I can raise money because that's what it's all about. Then you flip over, and then you got Clyburn and Maxine Waters. They're going to go at it. And, of course, Maxine, she doesn't care about, she's ready to always fight whenever there's a chance because it's also good for her.
Tell me the number.
When 90% of the members of Congress get vaccinated.
But you're not a doctor, Clyburn. He is. What is the number?
I can't give.
Chair now recognizes.
I don't want.
Reclaiming my time.
I want
regular order.
No,
just a moment.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want you to answer my question. The American people want Dr. Fauci to answer the question. What does it have to be?
Expire, sir. If you need to respect the chair and shut your mouth.
I think Mr. Jordan knows me very well. We're going to handle this. We're going to handle this. Time has expired.
And that's what you get. What did you learn from that? Nothing. Fauci's not going to answer the question because he doesn't know. Right? When they feel it's right, that's why states' rights matter so much. Your state may be open. Other states may be closed. Michigan's having a tough time, but they're at the point where they've been closed for so long that she realizes I have no choice but to let people have their life back. I posted something about Gretchen Whitmire a week ago about what was going on there, that even the people on the left and people that supported her, if you will, were turning on her. And they're like, well, they took away her power. First of all, it's not her power. It's the people's power. You represent the people. You took so much of that power. And yes, we can be cautious, but at some point we've got to the point where, what do they call it? Out of an abundance of caution to the abundance of the abundance of the abundance of caution, it feels a little bit much. Just looking for an answer. Just give me a number, right? Like that's just give me a number. When do you feel it's going to be? Because now that we've got so much vaccine, at some point, I think we have to come to the realization not everybody's going to take it. There is a certain amount of people that are not going to take this for whatever the reason. So does that mean that we have to be beholden to those people? That's a very fair question. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Of course, we've got all the things that are happening with the FedEx shooting. You've got 9 people dead. You've got, and that looks more to be workplace violence. On top of that, you've got what's going on in Minneapolis, right, with the Chauvin case. And that case is essentially off till Monday. Judge said yesterday, everybody bring your bags. Meaning you're going to probably get the case because they're going to have closing arguments. How long those arguments last, I'm assuming they get it Tuesday. I've talked to a couple legal experts. My friend Monica Lindstrom, you see on Court TV, Barry Markson, who is a big muckety-muck lawyer. Both of them have said probably less than 48 hours, they'll come back with, I'm assuming, a conviction of some sort, second, third, or whatever. But because of what's going on, because of the Daunte Wright shooting, the reality is it's primed for a retrial based on the fact that, you know, you're watching potentially your town have serious issues, riots, and potentially another summer of unrest. They feel like that, you know, without them being sequestered, he's not getting a fair trial. So it's chaos, you know, in a lot of places, but it's actually not. Like, things are so much better than we were a year ago. But Chad, look at all the killings and murders. Killings and murders. So is it really about that? It's about the guns, right? That's the thing. Is it about the guns? 'Cause I feel like it's more about the guns than the killings. We never say, it's funny when we say, well, we need gun control. We never say, well, you know what we really need? Murder control. That's what we really need. Oh, yeah, huh? Yeah, murder control is good, is a good thing. I'll go with that. It's like when we always talk about domestic violence. It's like, you should never hit a woman. Well, I was growing up, like, you should never hit anybody. I don't know, like there's some point where you feel like you just pop anybody. Right? It's like, oh, yeah, I punch anybody I want if it's a man. So, you know, it's the same thing with gun control. It's like, we need murder control. And murder control starts at a young age. And sometimes people snap off. Like, we're going to find out more about this FedEx thing in the next several days, but they're indicating it is most likely not domestic terrorism, not foreign terrorism, but it looks like a workplace kind of violence, which for a lot of the media is like, oh, that's it? You know, it's like that. He wasn't part of QAnon? No. He was an Islamic terrorist? No. Are you sure? Well, there's nothing to see here. So we talk about stuff like the guns. I always go back to, I think we need more murder control. Because we act as if, okay, let's take a certain gun out of people's hands. Okay, you go into, do you guys realize, let's put something back. I think it was 17 years ago today, if I'm correct, that Virginia Tech happened. Those were handguns. You guys remember Virginia Tech? So the shooting at Virginia Tech took place. And I remember distinctly where I was. That was the 14th anniversary today. I remember where I was. I was driving home from Sacramento to Southern California. I got a gig up there. I had to go pick up my stuff. And it was my ex-wife and I. Time she was just a wife, but then she became the ex-wife. And when we left early in the morning, there was a person of interest, right? Like a person of interest. There was a shooting, potentially, going on. And it then escalated. And by the time that we had gotten back down to Southern California, the carnage. It's a handgun. He had handguns. He didn't have rifles. He had handguns. That's why I continue to say this over and over again. I think maybe we need to start looking at murder control, if you will, rather than gun control. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. I want to talk about the bullying thing, which I find to be very interesting. A new report about who is biggest bullies in your life. Talk a bit about that, plus what's streaming this weekend. Raycon, best earbuds around. I love my Raycons. I've got them powered up. I'm ready for the weekend. Playing a lot of golf this weekend. I'm going to go out today, hit for a little while, practice my putting. I do that every single day. And I wear my Raycons. I also do a ton of video editing. And, man, I tell you what, I love having my Raycons and my audio editing. I do some stuff the other day for some cartoon stuff. And I was doing some editing and cleaning stuff up, and the sound quality, because the noise isolating fits second to none. No stems, no wires, 6 hours of talk time, seamless Bluetooth. And the thing I love about that is because I have it hooked up to my phone and several of my laptops that I edit with and a few other things, I love it. Once I turn it on and I go to the place I'm going to work, it's almost like the brain tells it, all right, this is where you're going to be. It's incredible. Starts well under $100. There's a money-back guarantee. Get the best earbuds around. Check out all the products they offer. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Serving up talk radio medium rare and dripping with irony. It's Chad Benson.
Brothers Brienne and Donald Gleason are hoping to make you laugh with their new comedy series, Frank of Ireland.
33, you don't have a job.
It's about a couple of friends in their 30s who maybe aren't the most mature guys on the block. And Donald says some of the comedy comes from the stuff they watched together as kids.
You know, we watched Father Ted, we watched Friends, we watched Mr. Bean, we watched Blackadder, Fawlty Towers. We watched The Office, all that stuff we used to watch, and I think it made us really happy.
Frank of Ireland is out today on Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, and I believe tonight we have family movie night, but tonight it's going to be my movie. It's got other things to do. Yeah, tonight, Nobody. That's it just looks awesome, right? I mean, finally, it's Bob Odenkirk's movie. It's more of the John Wick movies, but this one's a little bit different. It's John Wicky feel with a little bit more comedy, and apparently it's extremely brutal. But he's got a family, and they all think he's kind of a dork. So, like, imagine a guy who's just your dorky accountant down on the corner office that everybody picks on, wears the khakis. It's kind of just a ding-dong. And then you find out, oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys this. We've been married for a few years, and I got kids, and they all think I'm an idiot. I'm a trained killer, and I'm really good at it. And I'm like, oh, this looks good. Frank of Ireland looks great. A lot of good stuff. You know me, I like good stuff. I like good. My movies is my jam. I think. So if you listen to the program regularly, you guys know that on Thursday nights, normally I would stay in town rather than go home. And then I go see a movie. But over the last 15 months or 14 months, is we just couldn't do that because of what was going on. The theaters were closed everywhere. I do believe next week will be my foray into the movie theater because I got special screen to go see Mortal Kombat in the IMAX, and I thought, you know what, I think it's time. I'm good. I'm all Modernaed out. I'm also already had it. At some point in time, I'm like, all right, it's time for me to go. Right? It's the mask thing's been the big put off at this point. It's like I can't sit there for 2 hours wearing a mask because I have glasses and I'm sick of it fogging up. And the last thing I want to be doing is fogging up my glasses, taking down my mask, fogging up my glasses. So what I'm trying to tell you is I'm going to buy a lot of popcorn is what I'm trying to say. So this will be cool. I am pumped about that, though. Going to see a movie and seeing it in the IMAX. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of other stuff this weekend. United States versus Billie Holiday looks really, really cool. Generation Plus, basically it's Gen Z high school series, so the kids. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. To be honest with you guys, I've seen a bit of some of this stuff. It's a little too woke for me. And they were showing, Tim Pool was showing the other day, because they can tell minute by minute when it comes to like who's watching it. When it got to a certain amount of wokeness, that the entire drop off was just tremendous. People are like, all right, I just want to see, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm not here to see wokeness and Captain Marvel. It's like, I just want to be entertained. Always remember that. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
A breakthrough infection or a vaccine failure is when a person contracts an infection despite being vaccinated against it. We see this with all vaccines in clinical trials, and in the real world, no vaccine is 100% efficacious or effective, which means that you will always see breakthrough infections regardless of the efficacy of your vaccine.
People are like, what's efficacy? How effective it is, basically. You're never going to have 100%. It just doesn't happen when it comes to these things. But you look at the real world number. Real world numbers matter. Why? Because, hey, guys, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we're closing in on pandemic numbers that we saw kind of in certain areas, during the turn of the year in certain places. And the World Health Organization is flipping out, because if you've not seen what's going on in some places, right, throughout South America, India had 200,000 reported yesterday. There's always the worry, right? Like this was going to reach some country. Like Africa has been very interesting. So the continent itself really hasn't been as devastated as people thought. People thought it was just going to come in there and just it was just going to, just go right through the population. And it really didn't. Same thing in India. Although India is feeling it now, a lot of people thought, India, man, when this thing gets to India, it's going to, and it got there and it didn't really do anything. Now it is. But it seems it's nature, right? And as we all know on the show, nature will mess you up, because that's what nature does. But nothing's going to be 100%. It isn't. The goal, though, is you get to a certain amount of herd immunity. I'm going to show this yesterday. It's like a certain amount. So herd immunity is right here. You get to a certain amount of herd immunity. The virus has nowhere to go, because it's always like the movie Alien. It's trying to survive. I need to get to something. And, well, then it goes in a room and there's 100 people in there, and 80 or 90 of them or 75 of them are all vaccinated. Some of them may have already had it. So it's running out of steam. It has nowhere to go. And so it slowly but surely fades away or becomes pretty much negligible. We're not quite there yet. Nobody really knows when we're going to get there. And then you got the other side of things, right? Which is people are freaking out about, oh my God, could be blood clots. Got my buddy Carlos in here right now, right? Just young guy, wants to be in radio. He comes in, and I said, asking him, so you going to get the you can get the vaccine. He's like, I'm on the fence. You can get blood clots. 7 million people had the J&J vaccine. Hate to tell you, Carlos, you're not a premenopausal woman, so I think you're going to be okay there. One person died. Well, they're looking at Moderna and Pfizer, and it seems to be blood clots kind of are a portion in all of them. And sometimes that's just the fact that there's so many numbers that are out there. And with those numbers, what ends up happening? Things are going to happen, right? Like it's some people are going to have a heart attack. Is it because J&J? Is it because of Moderna? Is it because of Pfizer? Or is it because you vaccinated so many people that whether they got the vaccination or not, that was coming, had nothing to do with it. So that's what they're looking into. But we're looking at when are we getting ourselves back to normal? One thing that seems to be back to normal is the fact that we've got shootings again. Like, that's the one thing that says, oh, yeah, that was like a timeout. Like, we didn't have school shootings for a year. Well, why was that? Well, because we didn't have any kids in school, I guess. I don't know. But it feels like we're back. Last night, horrific incident in Indy where it looks to be workplace violence. But now you got 9 dead, including the shooter. And it's an awful, awful situation.
Preliminary information at this time is that the alleged shooter has taken his own life here at the scene. After a preliminary search of the grounds, we have located 8 people at the scene with injuries consistent to gunshot wounds. Those 8 were pronounced deceased here at the scene. We have been made aware of multiple other people with injuries who have been transported to local hospitals or who have transported themselves to local hospitals.
Horrible incident. Why do you say alleged? I mean, I think we kind of it was Steve. Like, we saw him do it. Like, there he is. I know that you're trying to make it so you're not spreading stuff but they're pretty, at this point, they've got in there early. They're looking around. They're doing a lot of different places, but a lot of different investigation in several different places when it comes to, of course, you go right to everybody's social media. The minute you identify the person that allegedly is the shooter, you go right to their social media. You go right to the history. You start interviewing everybody. And, what's the first thing that people comes to mind? It's QAnon. It's domestic terrorism. It's a white supremacist. It's Islamic terrorism. Tell us what it is, because we live in a world of we need the information. I need the information because I have a political motive in doing this, because I need to be the first one on Twitter, or I need the first one on Instagram or Facebook that can talk about this so I can prove a point. Well,
at this point, law enforcement sources told ABC News there is no indication the latest mass shooting in the United States is connected to terrorism. Instead, investigators are trying to determine now whether this was an act of workplace violence at the FedEx warehouse on the southwest side of Indianapolis. FedEx said it is deeply shocked and saddened at the loss of its team members.
Yeah, it seems to be workplace violence. And when you look at the media, right, so you can go to the CNNs and Fox, they're covering it, but they're not. It's not wall to wall. It's not the wall to wall. And I'm going to say this, and this sounds absolutely horrible, just like we talked about the other day, but I like to give you guys, I like everybody to peer behind and see what's going on behind the curtain. Is people look around and they're like, I have friends that work in big time news world. And they'll say, what's the body count? What's the angle? That's horrible. It is, but it's the reality of what goes on. What's the angle? What's the body count? Can we spin it in a way that the people that we're trying to make sure that we reach our audience, they eat it up? It's news is activism and opinion more than it is news. You want news, go to your local stations as far as television goes. Right? Radio's the same thing. I'm going to give you who, what, when, how, and why. You want opinion, you come to things like this, or Fox, or MSNBC and CNN, because the one thing about Fox is they don't pretend to be news, and they don't say they're journalists. Some of the other places kind of, especially CNN, not so much MSNBC, they pretend to be journalists anymore, and they're not. They're not. None of those things. They're there to do what all of us are here. We're trying to do a job. With a job comes money. And the better you are at it, as far as getting people to watch, but there's also a sense that there's so much activism in what goes on, what gets seen, what happens. And we've talked about it before. Black cop shoots a white guy. White cop shoots a white guy. Nobody really cares. Not that nobody cares. It's just that the news gives you something different. It's like a shark attack, right? Plane crash. We talk about the plane crash all the time. How many planes crash a day? Little planes. Unless there's somebody famous, right? Like, let's John Denver's flying it. Or Payne Stewart. You guys remember that? The golfer? About, 15, 20 years ago when Payne Stewart's plane just got off course and they circled, they brought the jets up and the jets are following it and they could see his plane and it was all fogged up and it just eventually crashed. That became a story for a while. But when a jet goes down that kills a lot of people, that's big. Doesn't happen a lot. When a shark eats somebody, we talk about it. Why? Doesn't happen a lot. And then it gets the media coverage that's out there. Some things would get media coverage, period. But a lot of it is also what you get to see. As far as what took place in Indy.
In mass shooters, they leave a trail of information, either via social media, friends, associates, family. And so the information about perhaps his motivation to do this will be in things that he already created prior to the shooting.
99% of the time, that's absolutely it. What's the 1%? The real one-off. What happened in Vegas? To this day, nobody knows. There wasn't a trail. There wasn't any of the things. By all accounts, there was just none of it. He did what he did. Nobody knows why. There's no motive. There wasn't a suicide note. There was zero information when it came to Facebook or Twitter or any of this stuff. This seems to be, at this moment, a horrible workplace incident. And it is. But the way it gets covered is very interesting. Or doesn't get covered. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Derek Chauvin decided, no.
The problem for Derek Chauvin in taking the witness stand is he would have had to explain not just why he put his knee onto George Floyd, but why he had it there in minute 7 and minute 8, etc. And I think that there just weren't good enough answers for that.
But the only other person that was there was George Floyd, and he can't speak for himself. And if you're trying to save yourself, I would have thought at this point in time, let's throw a Hail Mary, right? I mean, there's no doubt in my mind after watching, but the defense actually did a very good job, all things considered. But the prosecution, all you had to do was not fumble the ball. And they didn't. That's all you had to do, right? They're going to hike the ball to you. You can take a step back. You go down on your knee. They hike the ball to you, take a step back, go down on your knee. It's the victory formation. Just don't do anything stupid. It's all in front of you. Now you've got your closing arguments. And I continue to say this when it comes to closing arguments. If it's me and I'm the prosecutor, I show the video one more time. And then I have a clock there that's digital in red. We're going to go to 9:29 and we're going to stay silent in the inside of the courtroom and count it backwards. Silence makes people think. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Rough Greens, give it to my dog Doodle. Last night, chasing rabbits. I'll be honest. He doesn't hear very well, but that has nothing to do with Rough Greens. The fact is he's doing a pretty good job living compared to the fact that we thought we were going to put him to sleep last year. And screaming at him, Doodle, get over here. Doodle, 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 Doodle. But it was awesome because he's out every night now chasing rabbits. And I just think it's hilarious because he couldn't catch a rabbit. By the way, none of my little dogs can catch a rabbit. None of them can. These rabbits are so fast. Because I always think, man, I'm going to get a bunch of rabbit traps because I can catch some rabbits. Maybe the dogs will catch me a rabbit. And I got my big lizards. We'll freeze them, kill all the parasites, give it to them. Yeah, they're not doing any of that. But the fact that he's doing it is amazing. Rough Greens is incredible. Canine VitaSmart is awesome. Sprinkle on your dog's food. Doesn't have any of that crap in it. Because right now your dog's food, it lives on a shelf. It's supposed to be there for a couple years maybe. Nothing living. This has vitamins, minerals, vegetables, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9, all of those goodies. And it helps. The joint pain with Doodle, his arthritic hips, his fatty tumors, it's like a miracle. About 15 months into this thing now with Doodle, he absolutely loves it. Sprinkle on your dog's food. Watch the changes that happen. Here's what Rough Greens is doing. They're going to send you a bag for free. You pay for shipping. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad, ruffgreens.com/Chad, or call 833-MyDog88, 833-MyDog88. Simple and easy right there. And get your package of Rough Greens for free. You pay for shipping. That's it. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Irreverent? Yeah. So what? It's the Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a peek and see what's trending around the trending world. Indianapolis shooting, obviously. Google trending big time. Yesterday, over the last 24 hours, Dogecoin. 2 million searches. Dogecoin spikes 300% in a week. And we're getting into a cryptocurrency bit of a war, but there's also a fear of a bubble. So, you know what's neat? When you start a cryptocurrency and a coin based on a meme. How'd you guys come up with the dollar bill? Oh, we had a great meme. It was pretty awesome. We thought, why not? That's kind of what it is. So, Dogecoin's worth $34 billion. It's up 300% in the last 7 days. So the fear is that there's going to be a spike and then a collapse. Adam Toledo, we're going to talk more about him, the 13-year-old that was killed by police in Chicago. The body camera footage from the police shows a lot of different things. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Bad Bunny tickets went on sale yesterday. So Bad Bunny, who was in WrestleMania, his tickets sold out in minutes. And it was crazy because a couple people are at the station trying to get Bad Bunny tickets, forgetting they work at a radio station. Disneyland. Oh, boy. Their ticket demand is overwhelming. Long delays, a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about Disney because now they're getting even woker when it comes to some of their employees. And oh, man. So we'll have some fun with that. Head on over to Twitter where everybody fights over all kinds of stuff. Yes, kids, Indy still leading the way on Twitter as far as searches of what happened. But it's funny because the people are going on to Google and they're searching. They want to find out what happens. They want the story. Twitter's different. They're trying to find out who was the guy and was he associated with some sort of group that we can make a political statement about. And that's kind of the way that goes. Kyle Rittenhouse. U.S. police and public officials donated to Rittenhouse according to Data Breach. Remember him? He's the kid that went to Wisconsin and shot 2 protesters. So there you go. Let it go. WWE news. 9 wrestlers have been released. Samoa Joe, Billy Kay, and Mickie James all been released from WWE and the UFOs. Man, if you guys have not seen UFOs, check it out. The Pentagon's kind of at the point, like they're getting close because that last bill, the last stimulus bill that Trump did inside of there was the release of a lot of findings that are supposed to come out soon. But the Pentagon has confirmed the authenticity of the newly leaked videos from the U.S. Navy. It was in the summer of 2019 off San Diego coast. There's 3 pyramid-like craft hovering around 700 feet over the tail of the USS Russell. And it is a trip because some of these things, they're just hovering there. They said there's a strong wind, there's all this stuff, and they're not moving. They're just hovering. And they got these neat light patterns. So it's very interesting. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And again, we warn the video is difficult to watch.
You're about to witness a tragedy unfold in the blink of an eye.
Chicago emergency, Travis.
Hi, I just heard gunshots.
But how many shots did you hear?
A lot, more than 5.
An officer arrives at the scene, body camera rolling. He races through an alley in hot pursuit. Suddenly, a confrontation. The officer yelling to see the suspect's hands. The suspect stopping and turning quickly. The officer fires a shot.
Show me your ass. Stop it. Stop it.
Like that, a 13-year-old gone. Tough thing to watch. And then, of course, they slow it down to frame by frame by frame to the point where the human eye is not going to catch any of that, right? You know, like you watch, they talk about like this is how fast the eye is when it comes to being able to pick stuff up from what they think like a hawk or an eagle or some animals whose eyesight is just ridiculous. Oh, and they would have trouble picking up that momentary thing. And that's what the officer saw. Why was he there, though? Somebody called him. Somebody called the dispatch. Dispatch, what's wrong? I'm hearing shots in the alley. Oh, okay. You hear shots in the alley. Oh, okay. Well, what do you want us to do about it? That's not what she says. She goes, I will dispatch somebody immediately. Somebody goes out. Right? Like, if you called 911 and said, hey, there's a bunch of shooting going on in the alley, like, what do you want us to do about it, right? Why don't you do something about it for a change? No, they show up. But what they know is there is somebody in the alley shooting a gun. Let me ask you, would you be curious to go see, or would you say, I think I'm going to stay away from the alley? I'm going to give a hard pass on going in the alley. Why? Because somebody has a gun. Oh, okay. He was 13. He was shot. He was 13. He shot. A lot of questions to be asked. Why are, first of all, you hanging out with somebody much older than you in an alley at night? I think that's a very fair question to ask. Absolutely. I mean, you'd be silly not to think that's not a fair question to ask. If my son's 13, he's 10 now, and he's hanging out in an alley with somebody who's got a gun late at night, we're going to have words. Serious words. Serious words. But it's still tough.
The officer begins CPR, but it's too late.
Stay with me. Hey, stay with me.
Hey, stay awake. Stay awake,
Put
man.
the chest press I'm going to start CPR. I'm not feeling a heartbeat.
Go ahead. I'm trying to press it.
When the confusion is over, we learn the suspect is only 13 years old. His name is Adam Toledo. The officer has said the boy had a gun in his hand. You can see a handgun a few feet away from the young man along this fence. But at the critical moment in some of the videos when the shot was fired, it's hard to see any gun in the boy's hands.
Yeah, it's tough. So, you have a 21-year-old Reuben Roman, apparently was with him, and allegedly fired the shots. But, again, that's an allegedly. But what we do know, there was somebody there. We don't know if it's him, allegedly. So, it's hard to watch something like this. But it's also, you think about how many times police come into contact with everybody. As I told you guys, I was pulled over a couple weeks ago. My tags are expired on the back of my car. I paid them, but I have a P.O. box, and I'll go probably get them tomorrow because I can't get them during the week because I'm 65 miles away from my house, and there's limited time in my day, and I'm not driving back in the middle of the day. They pulled me over, and they went through everything, and then like, oh, yeah, you did pay them and stuff. But, hey, they still ran everything and did everything. Police come in contact with how many people a day? It's an awful situation. It really is. And you could hear the police officer was dead silent for a while. And the reason, he knew that he had shot a child. He knew he'd shot a kid. He did. He knew. Adam apparently was holding a gun that was fired, allegedly, by Mr. Rowan. 2:30 in the morning. Let me ask you a question, right? It was the who was, I think it was a famous baseball player. Somebody said, nothing good ever happens after midnight. Right? Like, meaning if you're out after midnight, and not a lot going on after midnight unless you're out doing something. It's 2:30 in the morning. He's hanging out with a 21-year-old who, by the way, has a gun on him. Part of his probation is he can't have a gun. He shoots the gun 7 or 8 times. All of these things are what the blank. When I look at the police who are getting, blamed for this, because that's what the police do. I don't know why anybody would become a cop today. Zero idea why anybody would become a cop. This is Dimitri Roberts, a former police officer, talking about it's the police's fault.
The officer is the one with the bulletproof vest on. He's the one who has the gun. We train for dozens and dozens of hours with scenarios just like this. And when you don't see the gun in their hand or it's not being pointed directly at you, you put your gun away and you go and arrest them or you get in a fight. You don't shoot and kill them. And I'm sick of all of us getting so wrapped up in what the officer is in fear of or what he should have done. It's very clear. This is another kid in America getting killed by a grown-ass cop.
This is also another kid in America running around with a grown-ass man at 2:30 in the morning who's got a gun who shouldn't. You want to blame somebody? Oh, I don't care whether he was scared or not. You don't get to speak for that. You don't get to speak for somebody else's fear. You don't get to speak for somebody else's moment. You don't. We play so much Monday morning quarterback on tragedies. It's crazy. It's a tough thing. It is a tough thing to watch. But there's also some personal responsibility. And a lot of people today are calling that out. What's a 13-year-old? Where's the parents? The parents. What's a 13-year-old doing running around with a 21-year-old who's shooting the gun 7, 8 times in a city? Is that not a fair question to ask? Well, no, you can't ask that. No, you can't ask that. Because the officer shows up. And by the way, as they free-framed it at one time, you could see his hands up, again, in the middle of a split second. But also, other stations and people have freeze-framed it, and you can see that there was a gun in his hand. Or, something. It's dark. It's an alley. There's gunfire. I don't know what people are supposed to do. Again, maybe one day the cops are going to go, what do you want us to do about it? When we see a cop that does something wrong, we need to point it out. Absolutely. Can mistakes happen in life? 100%. At the same time, we ask a lot of officers to be perfect in a world where everybody they deal with is anything but. And they're not. Because I know I'm not. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. I'm so happy about this.
The House passed the Paycheck Fairness Act Thursday in a party line vote. Only one Republican, Pennsylvania's Brian Fitzpatrick, voted with the Democrats. Before that, Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
I'd like to see some of our Republican women colleagues on the other side of the aisle say, I'll take 82% of what the salary is of our male counterparts in the Congress. I don't see anybody stepping up to do that.
The bill faces an uphill climb in the 50-50 Senate. Business groups say the bill could lead to class action lawsuits.
Yeah. And I play that to talk about this. So I got tweeted something today, and we're just talking. Valen is filling in for producer Phil. She's kind of like our new helper. And somebody tweets at me, and her and I were joking about this. And this person tweets at me and says, if you're a white male, cis white male, let's not forget we're cis, have wealth, capitalism is great for you. Not disputing that. If you're serious about equity or even about the idea of family in this country, we'd complain for equal pay, subsidized child care, and applaud women for every success in a white man's country. Why is it always going to be about race? Secondly, let's see how far women have come. Remember, you're competing with people who've been in the workplace for a very long time. And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about men as a species, cis, white, gendered males, all males have been. So there's some of that. Secondly, we know what baloney so much of this stuff is about. Like, all things being equal, absolutely. And by the way, Nancy, I'd like all of you to get paid nothing so we can make it all fair, because you guys are, I think we all know that. Maybe a stipend. Give them a per diem. Like, how about that? If we gave you a per diem and you couldn't have any money from lobbyists, you sticking around, Nancy? Just curious. Just curious. I'm doing it for the good of the people. All things being equal. That's all I'm saying. 100%. But things aren't equal in a lot of different things. Like, men tend to work longer hours. Oh, yeah, that's true. They tend to do more dangerous jobs. Oh, yeah, that's kind of true. They also tend to do jobs where the paycheck is higher based on the actions they do. Sales, things of that nature. Where women tend to gravitate towards things like social services. Social work is one of those things. We're looking for the all things are equal. Yeah, you know what? If you guys are both getting hired at the same time and all things are equal, I got zero problems. By the way, if you've got a bachelor's and she's got a master's degree and that's better and you get a bump for that, I got no problem with that. None of those things I have problems with. Like, we all do. Like, we all look around and go, all right, all these things we're good with. But it does make me laugh. Like, somebody's like, first of all, why do I have to subsidize your child care? And I'm not applauding you for every success. Why? Because I don't applaud every man. If we're going to be equal, I don't applaud every man. I don't expect you to applaud me. Like, if you do something out of the ordinary, yeah, of course, right? Like, you do, if you get an attaboy. But if you think you deserve, and I think most women would go, yeah, that's stupid. Like, that sounds patronizing. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So, the insanity of people. You cis, white, gendered, male, capitalistic fool. Okay. I'll wear that badge proudly. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from you. My Pillow has My Slippers. My Slippers. So the My Slippers, I was showing people around here because I got a couple of them here. And I was showing people, they're like, oh my goodness. It's like a comfortable running shoe meets like Ugg boots. It's the best way to describe it. The patented gel, the patented fill from the My Pillow, and the sole, it's 3 different layers, and it's incredible. And your feet will be like, this is amazing. It is. 60-day money-back guarantee. 1-year limited warranty. Try these things. You're going to love them. So go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. When you do, you can save 40% right there. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson on the My Slippers. Check out all the other stuff, and I continue to say, get the mattress topper. Get the mattress topper. If you're looking for your bed, you're uncomfortable, like, should we get a new bed? Get the mattress topper. Watch what it does for you. But check out the My Slippers. Awesome. Different colors, the moccasin, slip-on, the whole 9 yards. You will love these My Slippers from MyPillow. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
If you like talk radio like Chad Benson likes his meals, you've come to the perfect place for takeout.
I do like takeout. So we're talking about the UFOs earlier, because who doesn't like talking about UFOs? Or what are they? Now they're unidentified aerial objects. So they're UAOs. Our Navy saw them. Australia has a new naval ship. And they debuted it the other day. So usually when they debut it, right, it's a big to-do. You've got the brass band there. Everybody's dressed up in their, their dress whites and all the things. And it was no different in a lot of that, right? Except for one thing.
The ABC has tonight apologised for misleading viewers over its coverage of the Navy's twerking controversy.
Little twerk going on. Yeah, there was some twerking happening at some of this, the dancing. And it was just funny watching all the soldiers and the people that were there. And it became bigger than it should have. But it was also one of those things where I'm watching this thinking to myself, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know if we need the twerkers going on out there in front of a ship, a battleship. Hey, we're going to send this thing out to war. By the way, check these ladies out. What? It was the Fly Girls from, was that Colors? What's that saying? I can't even remember that show. It was on it late at night. It was awesome. It was so awesome. But this was great. They're in the full outfits. They're twerking. They're shaking it. And none of them, like, it looked like they learned the dance like an hour before. That was the other side of it. But there's a little bit of controversy. And it was funny, too, because you've got some of the guys who are retired from the Navy, like 112 years old. Oh, yes, of course. Of course I fought in the war. And they have like all this metal on, and they're like trying to figure out. You look like, oh my God, some of these people have a heart attack watching this. What's going on? Can't believe it. I love Australia. Of all the places I could live outside of here, as I lived in Europe, and I loved England. England is a second home. I could live in Australia. It's like one of those places like, you know what? I think I live here. It's the closest thing that you would think what America would be like. And they haven't got to the wokeness, right? They're a little bit, I think the outback kind of keeps people a little tougher, right? It just feels like it's, yeah. And Fluffy, the comic, he was talking about when he was down in Australia, that they have no fear to say anything, and they don't care if they offend you, and they laugh, and you could tell they do it with a smile on their face and a little bit of good humor. Because if you've never seen Fluffy, he's a big dude, right? And he talks about when he was on the beach, and like people walk up to him, "G'day, mate, you just wash up here." Speaking of the ocean, comparing the Titanic to a modern cruiser, I thought this was so interesting because I think people realize the Titanic really wasn't all that when we look at it in today's world. So the Titanic, 46,000 tons, 2,435 passengers, 892 crew. Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Sea, 228,000 tons, almost 7,000 passengers, and almost as many crew people as there were passengers on the Titanic. It is 300 feet bigger. And when you look at it, you're like, wow. But you go back to that time and you look at the Titanic, you were awe-inspired. Today, you look at the Titanic comparatively to these, you're like, ooh, look, it's like a tugboat. It's so cute. Yeah. By the way, nobody can cruise yet, so we're just talking about cruises, just in case one day we actually have a chance to go back on a boat. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Preliminary information at this time is that the alleged shooter has taken his own life here at the scene. After a preliminary search of the grounds, we have located 8 people at the scene with injuries consistent to gunshot wounds. Those 8 were pronounced deceased here at the scene. We have been made aware of multiple other people with injuries who have been transported to local hospitals or who have transported themselves to local hospitals.
Yeah. Horrible scene last night at FedEx. Of course, you start digging down deep, trying to figure out exactly what happened. Looks to be workplace. But you have to go and dig and dig and dig to make sure that we're dealing with that. And because we have a need to know, but it's also about part of that knowledge and understanding is about trying to figure out in the future, can we get to a point where we can maybe, hopefully one day, start to prevent some of these things?
In mass shooters, they leave a trail of information, either via social media, friends, associates, family. And so the information about perhaps his motivation to do this will be in things that he already created prior to the shooting.
Did he have any of that? What are they thinking? Well, they're thinking it might be nothing more than a workplace violence situation because of what we do. Remember, the media is looking for narrative. Black person gets killed by cop, especially a white cop. There's something there. And then the activism can come in, but there's a story to tell, and we're going to take it. Run with it, the whole 9 yards. If a white guy gets killed by a cop, the narrative, nobody really cares, right? Nobody cares. Nobody does. Because it's part of it. Same thing goes in a situation like this. What kind of gun was used? What's the body count? Okay, is he a white domestic terrorist? Is he a QAnon? Is he a conspiracy theorist? Is he a Trump supporter? Is he Islamic, right? Is he part of some sort of ISIS that ISIS want him to? You start to build out, because there you can either push because it's what your audience wants, or you can ignore or cover it in minute ways because it's, well, goes against what your audience wants to hear.
At this point, law enforcement sources told ABC News there is no indication the latest mass shooting in the United States is connected to terrorism. Instead, investigators are trying to determine now whether this was an act of workplace violence at the FedEx warehouse on the southwest side of Indianapolis. FedEx said it is deeply shocked and saddened at the loss of its team members.
And we'll find out moving forward what all of this was about. We'll find out moving forward what took place. It's going to take time. I don't know what all of it was about. Nobody does. And that's why they go and they search and they look. But we live in a world now where getting the facts, how about the facts that I want to get? That's all I care about. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be the coronavirus. What's the facts that supports my belief? If we're going to do that. Could be equality and pay. What's the facts that support my belief, not the actual truth? Doesn't matter, right? Because I've got something. And I feel at times for parts of the media, especially people that are in it and they're doing everything they can because it's a living. This is what they love doing. They want to be a part of the media. But they're at the point now where it's like, man, they got to make a living. And just giving you who, what, when, how, and why without telling a story about it, painting a victim, and it's got to be the right kind of victim, right? It can't be there's a certain thing that we have to have, a look, the whole night. We have to paint that picture of what that victim is. Then I'm going to give you an opinion, and most of my opinion is going to be based on a portion of something, not the actual something. Every once in a while, yes, you get the black and white. I'm not talking about race or anything story, but there's so much more to it, so much more nuance. Last night, I couldn't tell you. As we start to break this thing down more, it'll probably be days before we really get a full, even if he left a note somewhere, even if there was some of those things, they're going to dig deeper into why. And you're going to start to hear more and more about what the people said. If it was workplace violence, why? They're going to come out and say, well, we knew this guy. We didn't know this guy. This is what happened. And that's the thing. It's the same thing that goes on with the shootings, right? Like with cops or the Derek Chauvin thing. I mean, where everybody's trying to paint a picture, one side or another, and look at this or look at that. I mean, the video is pretty clear, but you have to have more than just that video. Now, right now, they're done. So the defense closing arguments could come next week. Prosecution as well. The judge said, hey, guys, bring your bags because you're going to probably be here overnight and we're going to sequester you. Prosecution's done a hell of a job. I don't think the entire point, if you're the defense, is I only need one. I'm going to give the people in this jury as much information that I can give them. I'm going to throw it all against the wall, and all I need is one. For the prosecution, it's much different in a case like this comparatively to what's going to happen with the former officer Potter, who shot Dante Wright. Why? Because there's a lot more graying area there. You're talking about somebody who's claiming it was an accident, who tried to do everything right after it, who was screaming taser, 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 who all of those things add up to something. George Floyd, it was basically don't fumble the ball. You've got a big lead. See out the clock.
They tried to do that and show that with the drug use. They tried to show that with the carbon monoxide. They tried to show that with a few other things. The prosecution had a bigger and higher level of burden, so that's why they were required to put on the case that you saw. They had to ensure that there was no area for reasonable doubt.
Shauna Lloyd right there. She's absolutely right. No area for reasonable doubt. I don't think there is. I don't think there's any area at this moment in time that I've seen for reasonable doubt. I think that he's going to get second-degree murder. That's just me. I wouldn't be surprised if by next Thursday it's over and done with the entire trial, and then will come the sentencing. So this will be interesting. But it is the way that we handle things, the way that we look at things, and the things that, I always tell everybody, like I was talking to a couple people, because people hit me up all the time. Like, why don't you talk about the Hunter Biden thing? Because the average person probably isn't paying that much of attention to it. I said, Hunter Biden was the story. He wasn't the story. Matt Gaetz, why aren't you talking about that? Because, well, first of all, if you listen to the show, in fact, a memory just popped up on my phone. This is crazy. So a memory popped up on my phone of 2 years ago. 2 years ago, memory popped up on my phone. And it's Matt Gaetz and Andy Biggs and we all went down to the border. But I've said all along, not a fan, right? Let the investigation, play itself out. And before, we damn him to hell, even though I'm not a fan, you let the investigation play itself out. But people aren't interested in that anymore. What they want is reality media. And that's what you get. It's reality show media. And it's crazy. It's like, the stories, I look for the stories, the real stuff. Like the real stuff with Hunter Biden wasn't that he did all those things. The guy had a massive drug problem. He was a hot mess. He readily admits that. And yeah, of course he tried to use his dad influence to do things. I don't think his dad did anything with it, but he's, you love your son. You try to do a lot of things, but I don't think they did anything with it. Matt Gaetz, by all accounts, even some of the women that were on that trip that supposedly stuff happened, looks like it was in a different country and everybody was over the age of 18. Now, all of this stuff will come out in the coming days, weeks, and months. It's just the way things are handled and how it's covered, right? Like the Hunter Biden thing, if you mentioned it when it first happened in that silly laptop, you were shut down. It's all fake. It's all baloney. None of it's real. The news is like, no, it's all lies. It's all fake and lies. Found out, well, it looks like it was true. On the other side, Matt Gaetz is like last night on CNN. They must have covered it for an hour. They had Erin Burnett, and she had most of the TV, and then they had, live pictures from Minneapolis and what was going on there. And you're just like, well, it's crazy. And that's the way we consume our news now. We go to the place that gives us affirmation, and, we paint pictures. We paint, and everything inside of those pictures is only being painted from one side. I want to give you everything, and I like to come at you with reality. I'm going to give you my opinion. Right now, what's the media focusing on? Adam Toledo in the shooting. The officer shot him. He was 13 years old. And if you hear that, you're like, oh, my God. And that's the way that some are portraying it. It's just like this cop walked in off the street, saw a 13-year-old, in the middle of the day in broad daylight and thought he had a gun and it was nothing. And then he just shot him. Some of the stuff that you're hearing and I'm seeing is insane. We'll talk about the actual side of it and why people aren't questioning some of this and should be. Plus vaccines, speaking of stuff and fear and craziness. Talk about that. Jim Jordan and Fauci got into it. We got into it. Talk about that as well. And bullying. I got a good thing about bullying. I want to talk about bullying and words. Because words are violence. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter. Tweet at me. Chad, I just think you said that in a very sarcastic way. I did. Words are violence. Car Shield gives you 24/7 roadside assistance. Rent a car for free while your car is in the shop. It's great. And the shop. And why the shop's important. You know, a lot of these places that we cover repairs, and you go buy a car and they try to get you into some of these things. And then you realize, no, you got to take it to the shop, they say, right? So they're taking it to a place where it's about quantity because they're not getting paid a ton. And what ends up happening? They put a stick of gum on it and a rubber band, and then they send you on your way. And your car breaks down an hour and a half later. You don't want that. With Car Shield, you choose the shop. Take it to the dealership if you want. Whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable, and the person that you trust, you take it to them. It's America's #1 auto protection company. Over 1 million drivers have been helped, and they're ready to help you. Call them today. They got plans start as low as $99 a month. 800-665-2157. 800-665-2157. Use code Benson, saves you 10%, or carshield.com, carshield.com. Code Benson saves you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
You stink like fear and white male privilege to me.
I do often out myself verbally as a gender. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm proud to be a gender.
Are you stupid? Are you kidding me?
Not a great way to use your white privilege.
Some people get it, some people don't.
You're listening to The Chad Benson Show.
Police say the gun was found next to a fence, but the family points to this video appearing to show Toledo's hands empty as he raised them. Officer Stillman has been placed on administrative duties while under investigation by Chicago's Civilian Office of Police Accountability. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot holding back tears as she urged the city for calm.
Yeah. Now, in that split second when they show it, it is you stop the camera at a split second. So you're reviewing inch by inch, then millimeter by millimeter. I mean, you're reviewing every single frame, and you can say, look, he didn't have a gun. His hands are up. In real time, your eyes aren't catching that. But Chad, it was like, what? It was the middle of the day. This kid was just skipping down the street. And no, what happened was awful. But let's step back for a second. Okay? So the cops just showed up, right? Like that's what happened. The cops showed up, and that's the only thing. It's sad. They just decided, hey, this is the kid, and we're just going to show up. No.
And again, we warn the video is difficult to watch.
You're about to witness a tragedy unfold in the blink of an eye.
Chicago emergency, Travis.
Hi, I just heard gunshots.
But how many shots did you hear?
A lot, of more than 5.
It's 2:30 in the morning. A woman calls and says, I hear gunshots. Ooh, what? 2:30 in the morning? How old is this kid? He's 13. Oh, wait, what? He's 13? What's he doing at 2:30 in the morning? Fair question to ask. "13-year-old hanging out with 21-year-old Ruben Roman, who had been with Adam and allegedly fired the guns that drew the officers to the Little Village scene. So somebody reports gunshots, not the police cruising around. It's not daytime. It's 2:30 in the morning. It's an alley in the middle of a city. Cop showed up. Apparently, he picked up the gun. The kid, Adam, picked up the gun. Look, why are you hanging out with a 21-year-old? Who, by the way, he's on a gun offender probation. Why does he shoot 7 or 8 times in a city with a young child next to him and then flee and leave the gun there with the kid? All fair questions. All fair questions. What happened here was a tragedy. A split second, an officer did something, and he did everything he could. You could hear him. He was distraught.
The officer begins CPR, but it's too late.
Stay with me. Hey, stay with me.
Hey, stay awake. Stay awake,
put
man.
Put the chest press on. I'm going to start CPR. I'm not feeling a heartbeat.
It's tough. It is a tragedy. But like a lot of things, there is a roadmap of why people got to where they got to. Do I think that officer woke up in the morning and go, you know what, I'd like to shoot a black kid at night? No. He got called to an incident in the dark in an alley where people called him from that neighborhood and said people are shooting off guns. There's a lot to it. Will you see it all? Probably not. But the reality is there's a lot more to the story, as there always is. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Now, how she made the difference was she shot that poor guy to death, saying, this is, I thought was my taser. And if you can't tell the difference in the feel of those things, it's crazy. Anyhow, she deserves, I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. But why they don't stop this? The Derek Chauvin, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff.
That's Pat Robertson. Not sounding great, by the way. I don't know how old he is. But, yeah, they've got to stop this. Cops don't want this. You think cops like this? I think cops are like, man, you know what I like? I like it when people do really bad things in a police uniform and cause us hell. They don't. She, being Officer Potter, former Officer Potter, yeah, you know what? It's going to be tough to convict her. It is. Even the prosecution, I know they want, her to be tried as second degree. And from what I understand, the prosecution, I was talking to Alex Stone out there, is basically saying, that's just not going to happen, guys. And if you guys want me to try and if you think I've got to go with what I think I can prove. And by the way, second degree manslaughter in Minnesota, because it's not in a lot of states. Most of it's reserved for things like I was hunting and I thought that guy was an elk. Like that, super accident. That is going to be tough. Should she have done better? Oh, yeah, she should have. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. Did she jack the pooch? Yes, she did. Chauvin is a whole other thing. You can't compare the two. Everybody wants to. They want to compare the two. Let's compare and contrast the two. And same thing with Adam Toledo. The little boy was shot. It was all these white cops who woke up and said, "I want to kill black." That's not it. Derek Chauvin is going to get, I think, second degree murder. And I think he's going to be in a situation, too, where his defense team is going to be able to argue, probably successful, that, look, we didn't feel you should have sequestered the jury, especially after what took place with Dante Wright, and it was going on outside the doors, essentially. And to think that he got a fair trial from the jury, a fair hearing outside of from that moment on, based on the pressure that was going on outside, we don't think. They may be able to argue that and he'll have an appeal. I wouldn't be surprised. But when it comes to her, it's a bad situation. You killed a young man who's 20 years old. But much like we were talking about with the Adam Toledo thing, the 13-year-old kid killed by Chicago police by an officer who responds to a call of gunfire in an alley in an area we're not talking about a rural area. You're talking about Chicago. Several gunshots. He's 13 and it's 2:30 in the morning. Even the police and some other people are saying, look, first of all, what's a 13-year-old doing out at 2:30 in the morning? What's he doing with a 21-year-old? Why is the 21-year-old who's not supposed to have a gun, who's on probation for a gun, have a gun? Why did he bring the gun? Why did he shoot the gun? And why did he drop the gun and flee? All of those things are being asked. But the media is going to focus on the things that brings it what exactly is that they're looking for, which is pretty simple. What's the thing that's going to stir the emotion? Totally understandable. Media is where media is today. Establishment media, radio, all of it. People laugh at me, and I get it from listeners, by the way, because I'm like, I'm talking about UFOs, I'm talking about Bigfoot. There's a new movie coming out called Sasquatch, right? It's going to be on Hulu. I advise you guys to see it. It's essentially, I don't want to give everything away, but so it's totally about Bigfoot? It's about Bigfoot-ish. It's also about the fact a lot of people grow weed, and Bigfoot's a great story about how scare people away for trying to come and get their weed. There's a lot of neat stuff in there. And that people disappear, and it's just as easy to say Bigfoot took them, but I like talking about all that kind of stuff. And we talk about these things. Somebody asked me yesterday, I did a phone call with a bunch of radio operators, and they said, is there anything you stay away from? I said, no, I address everything. I want to talk about everything. This is life, right? Like we're sitting down talking. And we could talk about race. We could talk about pay equity. We could talk about trans issues. We could talk about everything. Because I think all of those things is what life's made up about. It is. And I don't have an agenda. My agenda is never to get you to go, oh my God, I need to do this or that. No, what I want to do is give you everything, give you my opinion based on that, and then you make a decision and hopefully entertain you. Hopefully, no. Sometimes I'm entertaining. Sometimes maybe you think, it's not really entertaining. But we should all ask questions, and we've stopped asking questions. We've gotten to this place in our life now where we've allowed feelings to overrun everything to the point where it's like, I read this study yesterday, and I thought to myself, are you kidding me? Are you guys being serious now? And it's about bullying. Bullying? Nobody likes bullying. No, nobody does like bullying. Bullying is... But they say the people that bully are most likely your friends. Oh, that's really weird. Yeah. That's most likely your friends. And then it goes on to talk about how, it used to be peer pressure, right? But now it's bullying. But it also talks about, well, what is it? What happens? Like in my day, because the day has changed, right? And I have this issue all the time with my son. Oh, God, I love him, but we have this. He can't take a joke, right? So when I was growing up, still to this day, because by the way, just to let you know, one of my best friends in the world, he was there the day I was born, because my mom were best friends. 3 of my other friends, we went to co-op together, like preschool. And we bust each other's balls on a daily basis whenever we have a chance. We have so much fun. And I always tell my son, if that's not happening in your world, with your friends not joking with you, we would never do stuff like that. And that kind of stuff's not nice. And it's bullying, Dad. And I'm like, no, what it is back in our day, and they even address it in the study, that essentially says, plus you've got people jockeying for positions based on hierarchy. That's life. That's not bullying. That's life. Part of life is the fact that because when I think of a bully, I think of a classic bully, right? Somebody's coming to beat you up to take your milk money. Because bullying to me has always been about, because I grew up in a time when, that's what it was. Now, this time's different because you got social media and all these kind of things. Here's the thing about social media. Swipe. I don't like what you said. Swipe. And it's tougher for kids because they got to go to school and all the other kids are on social media and people may be doing some stuff. But we're talking about, like, they're going into the fact that even jokes with your friends is bad. And I'm thinking, no. They're your friends, right? In fact, I've always said if we're hanging out and we're really friends and we're not busting on each other, we're not joking with each other, there's a chance that our friendship probably is as strong as you think it is. And I think most of you understand that. So I posted something yesterday, and it was the perfect example of people started commenting right away. Well, you just made his point. It was just something silly that somebody, and we've said it 1,000 times here. And really, it's kids go back. It's kids in 1995. Actually, kids going back into the 50s and 60s. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Adults in 2021. Words are literally violence. And I said, this is so damn true. And some lady starts blasting me. Words are violence. I said, no, they're not. Violence is violence. That's a fact. Can words get people to commit violence? Yes. But we're not talking about, I'm not talking about people that are evil. I'm not talking about Adolf Hitler and the Reich. We're talking about in a day and age now where if you say a joke somebody doesn't like, it's words are violence. Or you dead name somebody who's trans. That's violence. No, it's not. Violence is violence. That's it. Violence is violence. And why they say words can never hurt me is because because I get it every day. I suck. I'm the worst. I mean, you got to see the stuff that I get. And I laugh. Why? I don't know you. You don't know me. You're angry about something. You listen to the show and I didn't like something you say. I challenged one of your beliefs and maybe it pissed you off because maybe you found some truth in it or you just think I'm an idiot and you send me horrible things. And that's not violence. It's just your opinion on something. And my opinion of myself is higher than that I'm going to sit there and go, oh my God, somebody on the internet doesn't like me. Let me tell you something. Everybody on the internet doesn't like you or me. That's why they created the internet, in particular social media, is to not like each other. It's not really what it's created for, but that's what it's become. So here's some facts. Violence is violence. You should be strong in who you are. And if somebody says something you don't like, you have a what? If it's on the internet, you can move on. If it's somebody where you're like, that's your opinion. I got a different opinion myself. And sometimes some things that people take as hurt, especially from friends, sometimes it's just, hey, you know what? I know you really well, and I think that this is an issue for you. Oh, my goodness. The fact is, words, they're just words. But I remind you, violence is actually violence. And I'm not talking about people who are trying to get an audience to commit violence. I'm talking about the everyday average person, where my son and his friends would joke and not have to worry about having to go to therapy afterwards or getting called into a parent-teacher meeting because somebody took something to such an offense that they can no longer function. Same thing with tweets. Tell me again on the doll where the tweet hurt you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Tweet at us, Rough Greens. Give it to my dog, Doodle. He's alive and well. And you can go to roughgreens.com/Chad. You can see me holding Doodle. He's the Chewiener. He's hilarious. He didn't see very well. He's much older than we thought, but he's healthier than he's been in I don't know how long. Because when we got him, we've had him for about 3 years. He was supposed to be 3. We found out he was like 8. So he's like 11 now. And we didn't think he was going to make it to 10. We're seriously thinking about putting him down. Now, a year into giving him Rough Greens, got vitamins, minerals, all these amazing things. It's a supplement, goes on your dog's food. His life has changed, and he is in the best shape since we've had him. He's bouncy. He's playful. I also give it to my tortoise. I do. I give it to my tortoise. And I give it to Winston every once in a while. Winston's a very picky eater. He's like me. Kind of has a palate of a 7-year-old. but they eat it up. It does make every pet food better. If you love your animals like I love my animals, try this. Canine Vitasmart from Rough Greens. They're going to send you a bag for free. You pay for shipping. RUFFgreens.com/Chad. Roughgreens.com/Chad. Or call 833-MyDog77. 833-MyDog77. Get yourself Rough Greens for free. Pay for that shipping. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I usually don't get into politics. As an ordinary suburban housewife, I feel a little disrespected. I teach my children not to name call.
You are a blabbermouth!
Come on, man!
Guys, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum?
Chad Benson.
If you guys don't follow Rex Chapman on Twitter, it's hilarious. Rex Chapman he has the funniest things, and he posted today a man saving his family from a bobcat. If you guys know what a bobcat is, it's think about it's a very small, wild cat. So bigger than your average house cat by far, but not anything you should be worried about. In fact, it's in like this domestic. You see this guy, they're all trying to get into a minivan, and he runs over and he picks this cat up. It looks just like a regular house cat. It's not much bigger because they're really not. And he like tries to chuck it. It's just hilarious. If you want to laugh, and the producer Anthony thought Rex Chapman may have the most addicting tweets out there. And they're just, he finds stuff. People send him stuff from all over the world. Some of it's cute. Some of it's ridiculous. But it is all just hilarious. He's also got the baby chimp. If you guys haven't seen that, the baby chimp was he had broken ribs. He had pneumonia, and he was abandoned by his mother. And a human couple raised him and showed him all this love. And then he went to a sanctuary, and it shows them reuniting with him. And it was hilarious because, like, the chimp ran up to him, like, had never seen him before. I mean, it had seen him every single day. It knew exactly who they were. Not like it ran up to him. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. So every once in a while you need stuff like that, right? You need that thing. Makes people laugh. We're so busy, pissed off at one another, angry. And so many times I'm like, what are you angry for? Like this weekend. Here in Phoenix, for whatever reason, we're having the Nazis are coming to Phoenix. I'm like, okay. And my whole time I'm thinking to myself, what's your point? Like, what's your end game? To separate everybody? To why are you pissed and angry? Like, I'm always curious, like, how you got to the point that you got to something. Like, how'd you get here? It's like, are you handing out flyers, or are you hoping to sign people up? Like, why are you just curious? And you're going to cause hell, and part of it's part of the fact that you like that stuff. But it always, I just like sitting down, talking every once in a while, and going, hey, just out of curiosity, like, what's your point in this situation? Is it because you feel like you've got nothing, and they offer you some sort of friendship or family, something? Are you selling stuff? Is this like a multi-level marketing thing? I mean, I don't know what it is. It's not very nice, Chad. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I played a little golf this weekend. Also, watching some movies, as I tend to do. I'll be streaming some stuff.
Brothers Brienne and Donal Gleeson are hoping to make you laugh with their new comedy series, Frank of Ireland.
33, you don't have a job.
It's about a couple of friends in their 30s who maybe aren't the most mature guys on the block. And Donal says some of the comedy comes from the stuff they watched together as kids.
We watched Father Ted, we watched Friends, we watched Mr. Bean, we watched Blackadder, Fawlty Towers. We watched The Office, all that stuff we used to watch, and I think it made us really happy.
Frank of Ireland is out today on Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, and if you're looking for an action movie that's fun, streaming tonight, Nobody kicks off. It's actually streaming now if you want to go watch it. That's the Bob Odenkirk movie. And the way I describe it is, first of all, it's very violent. Secondly, think of an absolute nerd lives in the suburbs, married with some kids who think he's just the worst, a khaki guy at the end of the hall who gets beat up by everybody and everything except for the fact that he has had enough. And, oh, by the way, he's one of the baddest killers ever. You'll enjoy that. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again on Monday. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.